Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Hey, I am so excited about this fight. Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn are going to be getting it on the London's O2 Arena on October 8th. This is great for boxing fans, but this is the thing, right? There's so much going on over there with Eddie Hearn. I've been saying this in videos. Y'all need to pay attention. Watch the fights that Eddie Hearn is making. I'm telling you, start paying attention. Eddie Hearn, I said in another video, Eddie Hearn is only looking to make those fights that are going to be home runs. He's looking to knock it out the park with every fight that he stages. Eddie Hearn is cutting the fat. Do you understand what I mean by that? He has a roster, and he is trimming that roster. And he is only putting on fights with guys who are going to take whatever he offers them. Eddie Hearn isn't out here with this endless bank, his bottomless bank account anymore. He doesn't have that $1 billion, he doesn't have a checkbook with access to $1 billion. Those days are over. People pay attention. Eddie Hearn has said he's only looking for star attractions, elite fighters, guys who can put butts in seats. These are Eddie Hearn's words. So when you see guys like Liam Smith leaving, him not wanting to deal with Andre anymore, not wanting to deal with Jesse Vargas, not wanting to deal with Tevin Farmer, not wanting to deal with, really, Derek Chisora. But Derek Chisora is holding on, he's clinging on for dear life. Not wanting to deal with Dillian White. Okay? There's a reason for that. He cannot afford to give these guys big money anymore. He can still afford them, but he doesn't want to deal with that financial burden and stress and the headaches that he's had as a result of not getting a return on his investment. At least the ROI didn't hit the milestones that they set. So now you see him making a fight like Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn. It's like, why? Eubank Jr. is melting himself down, and Conor Benn is, bubbling up to a catchweight. But why force a fight like this? Okay? Conor Benn is in a good position. Okay? He's in the top 5 with all 4 governing bodies. And then you take a look at Eubank Jr., he's the number 1, 2, and 3 with 3 of the world governing organizations. So both of these guys are in very good positions to where they don't need to force a fight at a catchweight, which it could potentially give one person an advantage. Conversely, it could put that same person at a disadvantage. It just depends on who handles the weight gain and loss the best. Now the thing is this, Eubanks Jr., right, after his last fight, he recently clipped a guy in 2 rounds. His handler struggled to land him a title shot. He just can't get the title shot fights. He just can't get it. Even having Roy Jones as his trainer and the respect people have for Roy Jones is a legend. The amount of the networking that Roy Jones has done over the years and the connection he has, he just can't pull the right strings. He can't make that fight happen for Eubank Jr. to get a title shot. So Eubank Jr., what's there for him to do? Okay? What can he do at 160, 168? What's he going to go up to 175? He just can't get those fights. People don't want to fight him. And it's not that Eubank Jr. doesn't bring anything to the table. He does. At least over in the UK. Now, Conor Benn is the same one. He's at 147. He wants to fight, but Amir Khan retired. He wants to fight Adrian Broner. They're not putting Adrian Broner in there with this pit bull. He wants to fight Spence. He wants to fight Boots. He wants to fight Stanley Eunice. He wants to fight Crawford. Eddie Hearn's like, no. They know Stanley Eunice is a hard fight. I'm the only channel that's covering Stanley Eunice. I don't know what the hell's wrong with everybody. A man to Stanley Eunice is a problem. He's extremely, extremely high risk. And they say low reward because he doesn't bring that much to the table financially at the moment. But to me, he's a high reward too if you can clip him, because having a name like that on your resume, that could send shockwaves through the boxing world, because people who follow boxing know a man to Stanley Eunice is no joke. But they don't want to do that. They don't want to waste they don't want to waste the time on those kind of risks. So now Eddie Hearn, what does he do? He says, okay, it's time for us to get Conor Benn. And, you know, for Eubank Jr., although Eubank Jr. had 2 big fights, he has 2 losses. Lost to, what's his name? George Groves. And he lost to the guy who got his socket smashed up by Canelo, Billy Joe Saunders. Those two losses aren't anything to be ashamed about. It's not that he got dominated, okay, but he lost. It is what it is. But it's time for these guys, as far as Eddie Hearn feels, to start blazing their own trails outside of their father's shadows. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. These 2 guys, in my opinion, have already blazed their own trails outside of their father's shadow. So why force an unnecessary fight? I'm going to tell you why. Eddie Hearn's in the red. He needs that dough. So he knows with these 2 guys, they're going to sell out the 20,000 seats at the O2 Arena in London. These 2 guys could probably sell out 40, 50,000 seats, okay? Because they're picking up from where the fathers left off 30 years ago. Now remember, their fathers, Chris Eubank and Nigel Benn, had 2 fights. Eubank stopped Nigel Benn in the first fight, fought to a draw in the second fight. But these guys, Nigel Benn was a very ferocious, fierce adversary to Chris Eubank. These guys, and let me tell you, you watch those fights, and not that one was dominating the other. I mean, them boys, they were both hurting each other. Extremely tough, athletic, durable men. So now you have the sons. And the sons, like I said, Eubank Jr. with Roy Jones. Eubank Jr. is an exceptional athlete. Exceptional, man. You watch this, there's videos that were floating around years ago with him hitting this like pad machine. And it's like a damn, like a machine, man. Like a robot. It didn't even look real the way he was able to rattle off those combinations with that kind of speed and power, and how long he was able to keep it up. His endurance, he's a freak, man. That's how talented and athletic and in condition Eubank Jr. is. That's why when you see him in these boxing matches, he just makes these guys look average. Eubank Jr. is an exceptional talent. My concern about him fighting Conor Benn is if he hurts Conor Benn, will he go in for the kill? And what I mean is not worried about injuring him and causing any brain damage and stuff like that, worried about the lingering effects. Because Eubank Jr. was in a fight with a guy where he was just smashing this dude, beating him and beating him and beating him. The referee was stupid. He didn't stop the fight. Chris Eubank Jr.'s dad got in the ring and just gave him the look and told him, only go to the body from now on. Don't hit him in the head. And he stood there and just stared him down. No communication. Just stared his son down. And then he got out the ring. So I think when a seed like that is planted in a fighter, that doesn't just go away. Now, Conor Benn, totally different animal. He'll kill you if he could. Okay, that's why they didn't want to put Adrian Broner in there with him. Conor Benn does not care. And that, I think, could be the difference in this fight. Now, some of you are saying, a good big man beats a good little man. Well, Conor Benn, if him at 158 pounds or whatever, man, or whatever the catch weight's going to be, I mean, he raised up his shirt. The man has a 6-pack, 8-pack of abs. So it's not that he's going to be out of shape, okay? He melts down to 147, kind of like Terrence Crawford, Earl Spence, and everyone else who fights at 147. Most of those guys aren't natural 147 pounders. They should be really fighting at 168 pounds, but they suffer all the way down to 147 for that moment in time for that scale to read the right number. But I think the big difference in this fight is going to be, can Conor Benn get to Chris Eubank Jr.? Chris Eubank Jr. has footwork, he has speed, combinations, head movement. He's elusive. He's like Roy Jones Jr., man. Roy Jones Jr. has really helped Chris Eubank Jr. as far as in boxing. Now, Chris Eubank Jr. to me was already a great fighter. Chris Eubank Jr. is a fighter. He's a brawler. Chris Eubank Jr. is not a guy to dance, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, and come and coochie coo and tickle you. He's not into no tickling contest. Chris Eubank Jr. like to bang and knock people out. But Roy has evolved his style, okay, which could, in turn, have extended his career a bit. As a result, could make him the betting favorite going into this fight because he's no longer a guy who's going to just stand in front of you and just exchange and have a brouhaha. That's not what's going on here, okay? So I'm going to give Chris Eubank Jr. the nod in this fight unless he chooses to stand there and let his nuts hang and want to go toe-to-toe with Conor Benn. That's where he played in the Conor Benn's game. And that's where mistakes happen. He should not stand there and try to trade. Now, don't get me wrong. Eubank Jr. can do that. Remember, he cut his teeth on brawling, okay? But he's evolved his style. But I think with the right game plan, the right strategy, okay, he's going to go ahead and continue to push and expand the Eubank legacy. And at the end of the day, I can't see Conor Benn being in a bad fight. He's a great, ferocious fighter. Styles make fights, but I think this is a bad style matchup. However, I'm going to fault Eddie Hearn. There's no need to have these two guys go at it. As a matter of fact, Eubank Jr. wasn't even thinking about this fight. It was Conor Benn that saw Chris Eubank Jr. after he clipped whoever he just fought a couple months ago and stopped him after a couple of rounds. It was him who came on there and said that I think it was Liam Williams, right? He said that he fancies his chances at a catchweight with Eubank Jr. And then he said that he walks around at super middleweight, and when he does that, he still has abs. Okay, so that's what got Eubank Jr.'s attention. And Eubank Jr. was just saying, you know, if the fan wants it, it's an interesting fight. So long story short, Eubank Jr. can't get a fight. Eddie Hearn's looking to make another big fight for Conor Benn. Guys in the States just didn't want to do it. You know, and this just goes on, man, to a bigger issue with what's going on out there, right? Eddie Hearn is being blackballed big time. And, you know, I need to do a video on it. Is it Eddie Hearn's fault? Like, a lot of people don't want to work with him. Even over there in England, you know? It's like they don't want to work with Eddie Hearn, man. Everyone's working against him. And that's got to be frustrating. Got to be frustrating. Because I personally think Eddie Hearn is the best promoter in boxing. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not saying he's the most effective. I think Al Heyman is the most effective. But I think Eddie Hearn, when it comes to getting in front of a camera, sitting down, being able to retain all the specifics, minuscule details of a fight that he's been working on, and he keeps it here. And when he gets in front of that camera, he's able to regurgitate all of that so eloquently. There's no one else in boxing who can do what Eddie Hearn does. But that's not everything it takes to make you the most effective, okay? So I think he is consistent. I think he genuinely wants to pay fighters at their market value or more if he could. But I think at the end of the day, he kind of got himself in over his head and he's in the ring. And I think DAZN wants their money back. And I think they're giving him a little pressure. And that's why Eddie Hearn is going to continue to make these fights where it could be someone's career is, you know, severely affected. And I mean adversely affected. You know, you almost want to say it's not too early to make this fight for these guys, but it's not necessary. So to me, it's an unnecessary fight being made just because of the money that these two can generate because of their last names. It really makes no sense, you know, because he could have found somebody for Conor Benn, and Eubank Jr., you know, he could have gone out there and fought somebody else. May not have been as big of a name, but Eddie Hearn, in my opinion, he's doing whatever is necessary to remain relevant and to remain afloat. Because a lot of the talent that he has, some of those big names, those guys are now being baited away from Eddie Hearn. Because, you know, Sky Sports has got themselves on some money. Now they're looking to pull boxers away from Eddie Hearn. It's just one of those games. And Eddie Hearn, like he's always said, don't hate the player, hate the game. Well, all his money's dried up. You know, Devin Haney's gone. He's undisputed. Eddie Hearn would have loved to have him over there. They may do business in the future, but promoters are going to take care of themselves, and boxers have learned to take care of themselves. And I was told this when I was getting ready to retire, man. And they were telling me, man, if you decide to go and work, if you're not going to open up your own business or do your own thing, right, and you decide to go work, don't feel guilty if you work for an employer. Or if you go to an interview and they hire you, then someone else comes and they offer you more money. Don't feel bad to call them and tell them, hey, sorry, this isn't going to work out. I have a different opportunity. I'm going to seize it. They said because when they need to fire somebody, they don't care if you have kids. They don't care about your bills. They don't care about anything. When there's drawbacks and they have to cut you, they'll cut you. So don't feel bad. Do what's best for you. And I think that's the same thing that you're seeing here. Eddie Hearn is doing what's best for him. As a result, these fighters will make, good paydays. They will. But at the end of the day, it's what they can bring to the table for Eddie Hearn. And it's just, it's unfolding. Some of you who are watching this video right now are probably saying, man, where's he getting that from? I'm going to tell you, keep watching the video. Listen to Eddie Hearn speak. He's not so jovial these days. And listen to him. Everyone's out to get me. When you're the best in what you do, you have a target on your back. He's saying these kind of things. He's talking about only looking for, fighters who can put butts in seats. These are things he's never said. He's never said. He's not even talking about wanting to work with other promoters and stuff like that. I think Eddie Hearn's kind of gone into fight or flight mode. And he's like, you know what, I'm not flying. There's not going to be any flight here. I'm going to fight and fight back hard. And he's going to do what it takes to put on great shows with big names and to make sure that he gets himself out of that red. He's not going to be in the green anytime soon. A few more of them AJ fighting Canelo fights, he may be all right. He may be in the yellow. But Leonard Ellaby, I keep saying this in these videos, Leonard Ellaby hit on something. Because, all right, for those of you who think that maybe I'm talking out of my butt, right? I'm just going off of what I'm gathering from Eddie Hearn's mouth and Leonard Ellaby and these other people, right? So you figure, I know that there's always a little bit of hyperbole. These guys out here say all kind of crap. We know that happens. But then when there's smoke, there's fire, okay? Do you for 1 second think that, don't think that Leonard Ellaby, Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren, Bob Arum, Al Heyman, anyone who's into boxing and promoting boxing, right, at the level that they're at, do you not think that there's not some kind of communication? Lou DiBella, do you think that Steven Espinoza working over there at Showtime, do you think that when someone puts on a pay-per-view event, these guys don't know how that pay-per-view event fared? So when Eddie Hearn says they did outstanding or they didn't, do you think Steven Espinoza, Leonard Ellaby, Lou DiBella, Bob Arum, all four of them are going to say that that's bullshit just because they're trying to make Eddie Hearn look bad? Okay, what do those four have to collectively come together in a community effort to bring down Eddie Hearn, right? What they're saying is he's full of crap. And it's okay to not do spectacular numbers at every outing. It's okay to have average, okay numbers, and what's frustrating them is they say Eddie Hearn exaggerates and he lies. And they don't like how he comes and he tries to downplay all the things that they're doing. That's why Eddie Hearn's end up in a position where he's in kind of fight or flight mode now. And that's why now he has to make these kind of fights. If Eddie Hearn had established a healthy relationship with Leonard Ellaby, with Al Heyman, with him and Bob Arum can't stand each other, with Lou DiBella, we would see some of the fights that we want. And a guy like Conor Benn would get a fight over here with PBC. Eubank Jr. would get a fight over here. Okay? But it's bigger than just these two fighters wanting to fight or not wanting to fight. These promoters are riffing, man. It's ridiculous. But I'm going to tell you right now, these two guys are going to be fighting on DAZN. They're going to broadcast this second generation showdown. And I'm telling you, man, this is a mouth-watering duel. And it's going to be, for both of them, their first pay-per-view fight. And it's going to be on a huge platform. So there's going to be 20,000 seats sold. It's going to be on pay-per-view. and it's going to sell a whole lot, right? Remember, Eddie Hearn did not want to put Dillian Whyte and Chisora on DAZN pay-per-view. Dillian Whyte and Derek Chisora in a trilogy. You put Canelo and Triple G on there, but they won't put Chisora and Dillian Whyte. I think people would pay for that. But Eddie Hearn, obviously, he knows more than what we do. Something must not have been right along the lines when it comes to those numbers for Dillian Whyte and Chisora. But you look at what's going on right now. Eddie Hearn is putting these guys on pay-per-view. And watch, he's going to make more fights with putting guys against each other who we're going to want to see, but we're going to be shocked at those fights because we would have never saw it coming. But we're going to be happy and intrigued it's happening, and he's going to be putting it on pay-per-view. You know why? Because pay-per-view is where the money is. And people are going to start complaining. Now, if you're already subscribed to DAZN, well, no problem. You see all the fights. So this in turn is either going to continue to increase the subscriptions for DAZN, but at the same time, it makes a little bit of extra dirt money on the side. And trust me, there's a reason why they've gone to this, because they've lost money. They've lost money. You know, you have to, I can only imagine. I would love to be a fly on the wall in those meetings with Eddie Hearn, the DAZN reps, or the DAZN execs, when they were discussing why they need to go to pay-per-view. Where they went from being like, no pay-per-view, we don't need it, pay-per-view is dead, to now saying, okay, hold on, let's kind of breathe some life back into this pay-per-view thing, and we need that now. Why? My question is, why do they need it? I can assume, I can speculate, but there's a reason. And I'm telling you, man, they're in the red. But anyway, we're going to get some good fights out of it. For those of you who don't have DAZN, you just have to pay pay-per-view. I'm telling you, man, get your ass a Fire Stick and quit playing around. You can watch everything on the Fire Stick. Not saying I have it, but you know, get up on that Fire Stick. But that being said, I'll leave you guys with that, man. 20,000 seats, man. It's gonna be very good, man. I can't wait to see it, man. These guys are gonna be fighting at a catch weight. I think it's gonna be 156, 158 pounds. You know, and it's gonna be crazy. You figure Eubank Jr. is running around here at 168 pounds. He says he can make 160, he can make 156 pounds. Man, draining yourself like that could give Conor Benn an advantage, because he's coming up. That means he doesn't have to lose as much weight. He doesn't have to weaken his body. Where Eubank Jr. is coming down, man. He already doesn't have any fat on him. So how the hell is he going to make 156? I don't know, but it is what it is. But that being said, I'll leave you guys with that. It's my 2 cents on it. I think this is a great fight. I really do. I just don't think it's necessary to put these 2 outstanding fighters against each other. And I don't think they're jeopardizing the legacy of their fathers, man. Their father's legacy is cemented. For these 2, their legacies, you know, they're working on that. But I don't think it's going to derail them, you know, because at the end of the day, they can always say it was too much weight, or I gained too much weight, or I lost too much weight. Okay? Now, if someone gets brutally knocked out, I think they can still kind of say that, but that could, you know, kind of affect the value of their stock. It could. But at the end of the day, man, I'm looking forward to this fight. Good fight. I just don't think it's necessary, but it's going to be good, and I'll be tuning in. That being said, like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Shout out to the veterans. And as always, I'm in the breeze.